The RTD2 era has already shown us huge change for the future of Doctor Who. New doctors, companions, side characters, storylines, costumes, and more. However, I would argue that none of these things are the biggest change Doctor Who has seen so far, or at least the change that has impacted Doctor Who the most positively. No, that award goes to something a little bit more subtle, but no less prevalent. I'm of course referring to the new promotion and marketing. And today I just wanted to talk about the difference between the marketing of the previous era and the marketing of the current era, and why I think it's such an improvement. And will probably no doubt be a huge contributing factor to Doctor Who's future success. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour, click that subscribe button. I'm not going to be so insistent on subscriber goals now because I've hit 20,000, but I still want to keep going. And if you enjoy Doctor Who content, it really does help out the channel for you to subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys, I love all the support. We've been growing at a rate that I can't even quantify, so thank you so much. You may have noticed recently with the Russell T Davies era, we've been having pretty regular updates, whether it be casting announcements, officially released promotional pictures, teasers on BBC One for an upcoming trailer for Eurovision, regular updates on production in Doctor Who magazine. The Doctor Who promotional machine is in full swing, and it seems as though Doctor Who has always got something going on these days. However, that wasn't always the case. Let me take you back in time, which is very fitting for a Doctor Who video, to 2019, a year which saw a gap in Doctor Who content, which on its own is not great. However, what I find most interesting in this comparison is how the two actually filled their gaps. For most of 2019, there was complete and utter radio silence, following a generally pretty well done marketing campaign for Series 11, to be fair. This was until sort of late November, December time when we started getting teasers and eventually a trailer for Series 12. However, by this point, it was kind of seen as a little bit too late, as by January, a lot of people thought that the then episode 1 of Series 12 Spyfall was just a New Year's Day special. And this lackluster marketing is something that we would see plague the rest of the Chibnall era. For example, in the gap between Series 12 and Revolution of the Daleks, we got very little promotion again till about November, December, with the episode coming out in January, and even when we did get said promotion, it was often things like, there will be a character named Leo, and look, here's the companion sat round a table. And I won't lie to you guys, as someone who was there, being a Doctor Who fan, if you were along with me for the ride, was rough. There was not much happening, the fan base was frustrated, and I think as a result, regardless of your opinions on the quality of the Chibnall era, I think the marketing probably had as big of an impact on the way it was received as the subjective quality of it. And even when they tried to get more creative with marketing, such as with 2021's Find the Doctor campaign, it was very lacking in an actual reward at the end. It was basically an ARG, and what people got for completing it was a JPEG of Jodie Whittaker, which is like, fine, but it's not enough to whet the appetites of long-term fans. Contrast this with the 60th anniversary teasers that all show us little bits of different footage and hints towards, bits of dialogue, and is supposedly culminating in a Eurovision trailer. The payoff for one of those things is a lot better than the payoff for the other one of those things. This is without even mentioning the bizarre decision made around the Find the Doctor campaign to delete all the Doctor Who social media pages. A decision that largely just confused casual audiences from what I saw. I never saw anyone being like, whoa, Doctor Who deleted their Twitter. It was more just, why did Doctor Who delete their Twitter? A decision which, when you think about it, is pretty silly. Of course, we would eventually get trailers for Series 13 as well as a Comic-Con panel, but even then, the Comic-Con panel was rather lacking at the time. I remember the only major announcement being that Jacob Anderson joined the crew as a cast member, which was actually announced before it came up on the Comic-Con panel itself. And then 2 days after that, it was announced that Jodie and Chris Chibnall were leaving. And I could go on for ages talking about the marketing of the Chibnall era, talking about how Power of the Doctor didn't have a title until the last few weeks up until broadcast, or the fact that we were left guessing many of the dates for episodes to come out for a long time before they actually did. By contrast, however, there's a level of transparency with the Russell T Davies 2 era without it feeling overly spoilery, which is a common kind of defense I saw for the marketing last go round was, well, I don't want everything being spoiled for me. And I get that. I honestly do. I get why people don't want spoilers for things. However, I am of the belief that this era has struck the perfect balance between not spoiling anything too massive, but also giving fans just enough to tide them over. A good example of this is, you may have noticed when they've been filming for Series 14, we'll occasionally get just a nice photo shoot with usually the leads in costume in whatever sort of location they're in. This is a really nice thing, and it shows a level of understanding of fan base and property communication that wasn't really present in the Chris Chibnall era. Back when Flux was filming, I remember numerous photos coming out from filming like they do now, but the difference was when, for example, Weeping Angels were spotted, rather than telling us that, hey, they were there, which we all knew, they just sort of pretend that we didn't see them. It was kind of like the Sylvia Noble scene in the 60th, ironically enough. He's not there, you can't see him. Whereas with the new approach, they're aware that some things are going to be out in public, so you might as well use those public things to bolster the promotion of the thing that you're making. This is not to mention the fact that they seem to have been a lot less stringent on what their cast can actually say. Regularly, there'll be interviews with cast members, either in Doctor Who magazine or other publications, where people will give little details about their characters, something that would be seen as blasphemous just a few years ago, with John Bishop getting told off for saying he was from Liverpool, which, let's face it, was hardly the biggest spoiler in the world.
So I just mentioned that the character was from Liverpool. Then the BBC phoned me up and said, you've broke the cardinal sin. You've told them something about Doctor Who. And I went, I haven't told them anything.
Another thing that this era has been exceedingly good at that the previous era never really took full advantage of is utilising huge public events in order to bolster the reputation of the show. For example, we can see this all the way back when Ncuti Gatwa was announced at the BAFTAs, as well as, like I said, the upcoming Eurovision trailer, and David Tennant doing a Blue Peter competition. It seems as though, wherever you look, something in the Doctor Who world is always going on. Whereas it almost felt like, for a good chunk of the year, the Doctor Who cast kind of didn't exist. They only really popped up when a series was on the horizon, which is kind of a shame, not only for the fans, but also for those incumbent actors. You only get to be the Doctor once at the end of the day. So why would you not utilise them to their fullest effect? Have them doing Blue Peter competitions, have them in little teasers throughout the year, get them on interviews. Those things don't necessarily need to be massive spoilers, but what they do is they get normal people and casual fans on board in a way that is not possible through the secretive methods. It also had the knock-on effect, hi, this is me by the way, Tharries from the future, of making Doctor Who look a little bit silly. Like, at the end of the day, if you can't even have John Bishop say his character's name without threat of a SWAT team coming through his door, it just looks a bit over the top. It's a family show, Chris. It's not MI5. The analogy I like to use at the moment is the way Doctor Who was back with the Chris Chibnall era and the way it is now reminds me a lot of what happened between the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch for Nintendo. And I apologise if you're not a gamer, this is probably going to go right over your head, but bear with me. The Wii U was arguably the biggest commercial failure for Nintendo since the Virtual Boy. It had commercials that did not appeal to either core audiences or the casuals because they didn't understand what the Wii U was. There were regular release droughts, particularly towards the end of the console's life, and overall the relevance of Nintendo was on a massive decline. Contrast this with the Switch, a system that from its very inception had a cleaner, more mature marketing campaign, regular releases and updates with regards to games. That's how I kind of see the difference of Doctor Who then versus Doctor Who now. Doctor Who now is determined to regain its status as one of Britain's biggest cultural exports. Doctor Who then was operated for a few people, often at the expense of the majority. But let me know in the comments below what you think about any of this. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.